you're eating wine. So the order is different. And the idea is that ultimately what's driving these behaviors in folks who have OC is this emotional loneliness and this disconnect. So we have to target that first. So an example of this rule-governed behavior would be, I had a client who, in her mind, she thought, I can never interrupt anybody. This is a rule she had. And so she would get in these interactions with her mom where her mom just talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. No, like, pausing for breath. And my client would be about to burst because she wouldn't interrupt her and say, I have to go to the restroom. And so we had to work on her interrupting so she could, you know, take care of her own needs. So that's just an example. And this is all connected to a brain behavioral model. And with this, we have 5 different zones that we all can get into. The resting state would be safety, actually. When you tell this to somebody who has OC and high anxiety, you're like, what? Because they're usually living in the threat zone. But our resting state as human beings is safety. And then what happens is we have a novelty here. So something happens, it's different. And we have to decide, is this a reward or is this threatening? Right? So somebody's elected president. Is this a reward or is this a threat? Okay? And based on what we decide, we're going to respond differently physiologically. And then what happens is if we're in either the reward or threatening state and we just are kind of stuck there, we might go into overwhelmed shutdown mode. So I'll give you an example. With beetle mania, these girls would go and see the beetles, right? And what happened? They got so excited. Oh my gosh, there's John, there's Paul. And then they couldn't reach him and they passed out. Girls were repeatedly taken out of stadiums on stretchers because they went into the overwhelmed shutdown mode. So they were so excited, but they couldn't reach what they wanted. We also do this when we're in the threat mode. If you're in fight or flight mode, but it's not working, you shut down after a while. And that's our body's way of trying to protect ourselves, because if we're being attacked by a predator in the wild, and we can't run away fast enough and we can't fight them, we then shut down and pretend to be a rock, so hopefully they just don't think that we're food. So we do this in life also, we go to overall shutdown. And so with RO, we're really working on skills that help get people back to the safety zone. Because what happens is, when people are chronically in the threat state or overwhelmed shutdown mode, they're signaling in certain ways that people pick up on, even if they're not aware of it. They just are kind of like, something's a bit off with this person, and I don't necessarily want to hang out with them. And so it creates this disconnect. So, for example, if you send a client out with classic exposure experiments, you say, okay, you know, you're depressed and you're anxious, so we need you to go to a party. It'll be great, really. And you send them, and they come back and they're like, it was horrible, no one talked to me. They might be completely accurate, because whatever it is that they're doing, we're picking up on, and they don't know they're doing it. And so what we're trying to do is teach people how can you actually take connection and then signal in ways that give you, what you need. And so again, with this, if somebody is in overwhelmed shutdown mode, one way this happens is they might have a flat face, and it's very, very distressing. If folks have seen this, I'm going to play this clip. They did an experiment where they took babies and they had moms, and now they've done it also with dads, interact with them and mirroring them, and then they had them turn away and then come back with a flat face and not respond. And you'll see very quickly how distressing that is to the baby. Oh, and I got to trim that.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 34 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could is agreeing back to her. This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They were working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions when they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this, and then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother better. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, "Come on, why are we doing this?" Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get a normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it, they actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Hallelujah. Mama's back.
The good is that normal stuff that goes on that we all do with our kids. The bad is when something bad happens, but the infant can overcome it. After all, when you stop the still face, the mother and the baby start to play again. The ugly is when you don't give the child any chance to get back to the good. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation.
Is it any different when dads try it?
No, same. Yeah, I watched the, oh yeah, here it is. We don't have time to watch it, but I started crying. It's really intense, I think. Because I think what this demonstrates is, imagine this happening, right, with babies, and how this might feed into either temperament, right? So I think if a baby is really, really sensitive, and then they have a parent who's just a bit more stoic, and they don't know they're doing this, I mean, that could really escalate the situation. And then also, if we think about our OC folks who go out into the world, and they're having this poker face, and they don't know they're doing it, it's creating that energy inside of people, and it keeps them disconnected. So the good news is there are ways to work with this. So once somebody is aware that they're doing this, you can teach them how to mix up and do things differently. And so one of the ways we can look at this is paying attention to where your eyebrows are. So when you're in threat mode, your eyebrows are down. And your voice goes down. But when you're actually open, your eyebrows go up and your voice goes up. So you have this lyrical tone voice, and part of what we pick up on with that is, let's say, for example, you're on the phone with somebody and then your voice changes, and you're like, what's wrong? Nothing. We know, right? So we're very skilled social signal detectors because we're all a bit neurotic, I think, about social interaction, because if we were out in the wild and we got kicked out of the tribe, then it was really a death sentence. We need each other to survive. So all this happens. So this is kind of a fun clip talking about the eyebrow wags.
Most of the things I'll be talking about tonight will involve having my eyebrows up. It's not to say that you don't put them down from time to time. Probably should have mentioned at the start, because what happens is people just end up looking at your eyebrows. Listen to what you're saying. Know where your eyebrows are when you're talking. Always have your eyebrows up when you're asking someone where the toilets are. Do you know where the toilets are? Toilets. You'll be going, do you know where the toilets are? Or, is that your daughter? Is that your daughter? Do you know where the toilets are?
Yeah, so it's kind of fun. I mean, I didn't know this until I learned about RO, but it's very true. So another way to illustrate this is, let's pretend that we were walking through the airport and we ran into somebody that we really, really like, but we haven't seen them in forever. What would you do? Oh my gosh! How are you? Give me a hug! How are you doing? Right? So what are you doing? You're opening up, your eyebrows go up, and your voice goes up. And so part of the way you can activate your social safety system is what we call big gestures. And so we'll do mindfulness practices like this in class, like get up and stretch and move around. And that kicks on your own safety system, and then that also can signal to other people that it's safe. So part of how you can do this as a therapist is we actually promote slouching. So if you lean back, like you kind of want to be leaned back in your chair like this when you're meeting with someone. And that's communicating safety and openness versus if you're very intense and you're like this. If you're working with somebody who has OC, that's going to be way too intense. Also, you want to be aware of where your eyes are. So you actually want to look up a bit sometimes, actually, and take your eye contact off the person. Because if you're locked in eye contact with someone, it's a threat signal. So you can think about, for example, dogs in the wild. If they're going to fight, that's how they're facing each other. And so, again, this speaks to you. It's really important to know what kind of temperament you're working with, because what might be very important with UC is going to not work at all with someone who's OC. And they may just kind of drop out of therapy, and you won't know why. Well, it might be because they didn't feel safe. So, with this done, RO is still DBT. So if somebody is imminently suicidal, we still would drop everything, and that's going to be the #1 target. But usually, just given the nature of the client, that can be kind of lower on the list, actually. So what tends to rise to the higher priority is what we call therapeutic aligned structure repair. This is a specific form of therapy interfering behavior, and it's about anytime that there's something getting in the way of your relationship. So if the client is disengaging, you want to pause and ask, what's going on here, and be open to feedback. And the idea is that you're teaching somebody how to build a relationship, and it has to start with the relationship with you. And we also work on taking feedback. And part of this, I forgot to mention this earlier, but a difference from RO and standard DBT is standard DBT is very much based in Zen mindfulness. And with RO, we're looking more at self-inquiry, which draws from Malamutt to Sufism. So that's going to be one difference there as well. And then, like I said, we're focused on the social signaling. You guys looking at my eyebrows?
Say that again. So OR is based on what?
Self-inquiry is based on Malamutt to Sufism.
Can you say that one more time a little slower?
Yeah, I didn't catch it.
So Sufis, the whirling dervishes, you've seen them, those are Sufis. Rumi was a Sufi. It's a form of Islam. It's that one component, self-inquiry, which is basically seeking out your edge. So where you feel discomfort, where you feel energy, and that's the point where you need to learn. And so for the sake of time, I won't go into detail on this, but have the on the research that supports all of this. So with standard DBT, we have multiple randomized trials now. A couple of the classics, we're comparing DBT to treatment as usual, and then also community treatment by expert. And I think the take-home point here is that DBT really is superior for reducing self-harm and suicidality. It also decreases hospitalization. So with DBT, our goal is to keep people out of the hospital because ultimately they need to return to their life and learn in their life. And so that's one thing that DBT really stands out with fewer hospitalizations. With DBT for adolescents, we have support with non-randomized trials now. We do need randomized trials. But again, we're seeing reductions in suicidality, also decreased hospitalizations. With eating disorders, we have uncontrolled and randomized controlled trials, primarily with binge eating disorder and bulimia. We see very high rates of diagnostic remission to subthreshold levels and high rates of abstinence from binge eating by the end of treatment. So as high as 100% is what I found in my study that I did. We also see significant improvement in measures of eating disorder psychopathology. With substance use, there again is support for superiority to treatment as usual. The evidence is a bit less clear when we're looking at comparing it to comprehensive validation therapy with 12-step. And I think this really speaks to how validation is such a core component of DBT. So what I did see some differences is that at the end of the validation therapy, you started seeing drug use go up. So there's kind of a return to where folks were when they started. Not entirely, but going in that direction. And then with RO, we now have several randomized controlled trials and 2 open trials with anorexia. And I think one of the points to make with this that's really cool is we saw significant large sizes for increases in BMI with RO. And remember what I said with RO, we are talking about eating, but it's usually at the end of session. And we're really not that worked up about it, as you might be in other treatments. And so an important point with that is that you want to make sure that somebody is medically stable enough to do this. So the trials that we do have, the BMI is around like 17, so they've been weight restored. And one of the trials was also done in an inpatient setting, actually. So, use with caution, but it's encouraging. We're seeing that actually this might be more helpful than standard DBT and other approaches in actually increasing BMI when we're not even talking about eating so much. So we do have about 5 minutes for any questions or thoughts. I'd be happy to take any, and please let me know if I can help in any way. I'm down in Carlsbad, and I also have an office close to downtown San Diego. I've also written a book on mindful eating from the dialectical perspective, which goes into DBT-based mindful eating. And there's lots of handouts that you can use personally as well as for your clients. So check it out. So what questions can I answer?
For the levels of validation that you presented, the RO matching, like the emotion matching,
Yeah.
is that like considered the highest level of validation? Like, does it go in order as far as like the highest level?
Yeah, that's a great question. So they're not necessarily in an order in the sense that one is better than the other, but you can think about that as maybe the most complex. So in some ways, maybe it would be the highest level. But yeah.
Well, like, I guess what I mean by highest level is like you have to work towards it. Because like, from what I've learned with DBT, like radical genuineness is like the highest level of validation because you're able to like fully be yourself, which is what you shared. And then I would think matching is like goes with that. Like if I'm not able to fully be myself and be radically genuine with someone, then I'm also probably like not matching them. I don't know. I guess I'm like having trouble holding both of those.
Yeah, I see what you mean, I think. I would, to your point, I think that it's very important that you have a foundation with somebody before you jump fully into radical genuineness. I think we can always be authentic and work on, being ourselves. But to truly just like call the BS out and be more direct, you have to have trust with somebody. And so I think sometimes, unfortunately, parents will come in and they're like, oh yeah, I'm radically genuine. I just tell it like it is. I'm like, yeah, but have you done these first 5 levels? No? Okay, well then that's not going to work. It's kind of like if you're just starting to get to know someone, you're on the first date, you probably don't dive into like all your deep dark secrets until you get to know that they're a safe person. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think maybe 7 would be the highest if you want to kind of put that distinction on it. So, yeah.
It seems like it can be very exhausting for the therapist to be doing this, because I'm thinking, you're on call, you're very present and very, in the computer, and especially if it's somebody who maybe is very controlled, so they're not giving you a lot back there.
Yeah.
So how do you manage that? And how do you kind of take care of yourself, but also just keep doing the work? I mean,
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think you have to love it, because it does become how you live your life. And you're right, I mean, it can be exhausting. And so you have to have very good boundaries to be able to not take on their stuff too much, right? To be able to leave it. And I agree. I think that honestly, now working with UC and OC, the OC I find more distressing and more exhausting.
Yeah,
because you have to be like pulling them in, and you got to be up.
I mean, I think of just my clients who are, severely depressed. I'm exhausted after the session, versus like an anxious client. I don't know, the energy's like, woo, But that's, that's me. So I think of somebody who's not giving that same energy back, or maybe they're not there yet to how to provide that. I mean, I can see the therapeutic relationship is so important, but for the therapist, I mean, if you have clients like that can be very.
And it's interesting. I think the individual sessions, just from my own experience, can be more intense in that way with the OC. But I absolutely love my RM class. I leave that class and I just feel energized, because we come to the OC and we all come together as a tribe.
You get more energy as a side too, don't you? They feed you back.
Yeah,
So you
exactly.
can't be, by the end of it, and if you have a single,
Yeah, exactly.
you put more energy out.
Yeah.
If you have a tribe,
Right.
it's totally different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Okay, hi.
I think I missed you earlier. I'll come back. Yeah.
I was wondering if the model you presented is conducive to working with people strictly in a group setting, where you draw us with the group, as opposed to starting, it sounds like you described starting with individual and then progressing into group work.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if it was conducive to group work.
Yeah. So I think if you have somebody who has true BPD, and also somebody who has true OC, then clinically, absolutely, you want to be doing the whole model. If you have folks who maybe have some features of it, but not the full thing, then you might be able to be more flexible. So there is some research support for group only, in particular for mindful eating. That's a whole group-based protocol, actually. So it just depends.
Before we continue my questions, some people I know have to leave. So I want to make sure that you know, before you leave, to please sign out and then also finish the evaluation and turn that in before you leave so that you can get CE credits. Otherwise you won't get CE credits. And then I just wanted to do these really quick, and then you guys can ask more questions.
Yes.
Okay, so here, pick a card, please. We have some giveaways. Okay. Rita Horn. Rita Horn. Thank you for coming. You want this? Thank you. And then one more when you pick the card. Thank you. And then Laura Cabanillas. I think that was who just that. Yay, I won! Okay, awesome. Yay! Thank you. And then also I wanted to be sure everyone knew about, we have these they're free for the taking. And then on the table also, these things are free for the taking, so, and let's, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.